Hello and welcome. My name is Alan, and today we are back with more news of the day, news and politics. Today is the. What is today's date? 18? Is that right? 13. Telling y'all, my eyeballs suck. It's the news and politics for the 13th of June, 2023. 2023. Anyway, we're starting off here with a story from ProPublica. And this says voting maps throughout the Deep South may be redrawn after surprise Supreme Court ruling. As many as 5 House seats could flip in 2024 after the Allen v. Milligan ruling, in which the Supreme Court upheld a key provision in the Voting Rights Act. Election maps across the Deep South are likely to be redrawn because of a surprise Supreme Court ruling that upheld the provision of the Voting Rights Act. Changes that could alter the balance of power that has given Republicans a razor-thin majority in Congress. The court's 5-4 decision in Allen v. Milligan, written for the majority by Chief Justice John Roberts, confirmed the section of the act that prohibits maps drawn to dilute minority voting strength. It was an unexpected victory for a law passed in 1965, which has been gradually dismantled under the Roberts Court. The Supreme Court is now expected to rule quickly as a similar challenge to election maps pending in Louisiana, which could create another congressional district favorable to Democrats in addition to the one in Alabama. And a racial gerrymandering case from South Carolina is moving toward oral arguments in October. Republican state leaders appealed a decision from a three-judge federal panel that found illegal targeting of black voters in a map that gave the GOP control of the state's last remaining swing district. If the panel's decision is upheld, the Republican legislature will have to redraw the lines for the first congressional district. So yeah, all this gerrymandering and trying to negate the impact of minorities in states is being brought to a close, surprisingly. It was still a 5-4 vote. Which more than likely is probably Trump's 3 guys and Thomas or Alito that voted against. Do they say who voted in what direction? Roberts' opinion brought a strongly worded dissent from conservative Justice Clarence Thomas, who accused the majority, including his colleague Brett Kavanaugh. Okay, Kavanaugh voted for the redistricting it, for the decision. Okay. Of creating a consciously uh, segregated districting system in the name of the Voting Rights Act. Yeah, Thomas, he needs to go, honestly. But another story. This is from the Independent. Trump pleads not guilty as he makes history as first president to be criminally charged twice. And this time, yeah. The taking the documents thing could come back to bite him hard in the ass. Honestly. For the second time in 3 months, the man who served as the 45th president of the United States stood before a judge as a defendant in the criminal case that could cost him his freedom for a significant portion of his remaining lifespan. Flanked by attorneys Todd Blanche and Christopher Kise, Donald Trump entered a Miami federal courtroom as U.S. Magistrate Judge. Jonathan Goodman formally presented him with a 37-count indictment accusing the former president of illegally retaining national defense documents and other classified materials at his Florida home and obstructing government efforts to reclaim them. And, the fact is, he could have just turned them in and say, my apologies, I didn't realize I had so many. Even though we know it filled several rooms at Mar-a-Lago, but yeah. This is from LGBTQ Nation. Illinois becomes the first state to outlaw book bans in historic move. Here in Illinois, we don't hide from the truth. We embrace it. Yeah. Absolutely. Book bannings are atrocious. Illinois has become the first state to make it illegal for libraries to ban books. The governor signed the landmark bill into law on Monday. It says libraries will lose their funding if they remove books from the shelf based on someone's personal or partisan disapproval. Yes, exactly. Books are there to learn from. Whether the content is bad or good, there's still something you can learn from them. Absolutely. Anyway, Trump now claims classified documents were planted in Mar-a-Lago boxes in wild arraignment morning rant. Trump rants at special counsel as he scrambles after being hit with a 37-count indictment. Yeah. So, yeah, he's like, nah, we're good. I didn't take these. They were planted. All these boxes were planted. Dude? Seriously? But yeah. Cancel. Okay, this is from the National Review. White House bans trans influencer for flashing breasts at Pride event. Inappropriate and disrespectful. Okay, number one, the way breasts are seen in the modern day should not be. They should be given the same recognition of men without their shirt. You know, honestly, a woman should have the right to go without a top. Either that or ban toplessness altogether. And I don't think a lot of people would like that. If some men can't control themselves when they see a topless woman, that's the men's fault. She shouldn't, a woman shouldn't be treated as if she's a criminal because she does the same thing a man does. Yeah, transgender influencer was banned from the White House on Tuesday after posing topless at Biden's Pride celebration over the weekend. Rose Montoya, who exposed her bare prosthetic breasts to the camera and onlookers at the official event, violated basic standards of decency and social matters, a spokesman for the White House told the New York Post. Yeah. Look. This is just another case of bullshit. This story is from WPRI 12. News 12. Yeah. But the Rhode Island House okays a bill to legalize magic mushrooms statewide. Hell yes. Awesome. You know, the only thing I think the government should do when it comes to drugs or substances is regulate. Tax and regulate. Because guess what? You could make a lot of money instead of constantly being underwater for trying to stop the flow of drugs. And because we have to have something for what's still going on, the Ukraine-Russian war, Putin declares Ukraine occupies Russia's historical territories. Russian President Vladimir Putin believes that Ukraine was allegedly located on the historical territories of the Russian Federation. It don't matter. Ukraine used to be part of the USSR. That don't mean you have the right to go in and take them by force. Putin, during a meeting with the so-called war reporters, as cited by Russian media. Why should the Ukrainians live at our expense in our historical territories. And if they want to live in our historical territories, then influence your political leadership in such a way that normal relations with Russia are built so that no one from these territories is threatened. That's the problem. Putin sees a threat in the fact that NATO is trying to enter these historic territories of his. They're out of their minds, aren't they? He exclaimed. Look, territory changes hands. It don't matter if it was part of the historical lands or not. As gross and disgusting as it is, in the way that the land was taken, the U.S. and Canada were not, the countries they were. They were Native American territory for the different tribes. I mean, my goodness. Where I live, it used to be Pawnee until the Cherokee moved in and drove them out. I think it was I don't think it was Shawnee. I think it was Pawnee. Cherokee drove them out, and it was just part of the giant Cherokee nation. Then the U.S. came in and forcefully shrunk the Cherokee nation. Just because something is historically your land doesn't mean, let's look at modern day Israel. Oh, the Israelites lived there. But guess what? Before the modern day state of Israel was formed, it was all under the control of Palestinians. And now the Palestinians are the threatened people. But, he wants to talk about historical territories. Whatever, dude. This is from Notes from Poland. Every woman has right to abortion if health threatened, says Polish government after the latest death. Poland's health minister Adam Niedzielski has announced the creation of a special team to help ensure that pregnant women receive appropriate medical care, including abortions, if their health is endangered. Some things American states won't do because they want to be, so against abortion that it don't matter if the pregnancy is viable or not. It don't matter if it'll kill you or not. You should have that baby whether or not you're dead or alive. But see, this is what should happen. It's common sense. Common sense. This is news from CTV News in Canada. Canada is experiencing its worst wildfire season of the 21st century. Canada is experiencing the worst wildfire season of the 21st century. Emergency Preparedness Minister Bill Blair announced the grim milestone Monday, saying that more than 47,000 square kilometers have burned so far this year, with 431 wildfires currently burning across Canada. It's because of these wildfires that we saw that day when the sky in New York looked like, something out of a sci-fi horror movie. The bright orange. One of those continues to threaten the Alberta community of Edson, where 8,400 residents remain under an evacuation order issued Friday. Hundreds of people in British Columbia have either been forced from their homes or are under the evacuation alert as the 4,660 square kilometer Donnie Creek blaze continues to rage, having grown to be the second largest ever recorded wildfire in the province. A massive fire in Shelburne County, Nova Scotia, remains out of control, although officials say the 235 square kilometer Barrington Lake wildfire is no longer growing. Teams within the province's Department of Natural Resources will be flying over the fire in southwest Nova Scotia this week and will use infrared scanners to detect areas where firefighters should be dispatched. About 5,000 firefighting personnel from multiple countries have been deployed across Canada to help battle the flames, and hundreds more are expected to arrive from Chile, Costa Rica, Spain, and Portugal in the coming days. Yeah. Like I said, it's... And yet, we still hear, climate change ain't real. Bitch! How fucking stupid are you? This is from Reuters. Neo-Nazi groups multiply in a more conservative Brazil. Now remember, they were under conservative, I guess it was Prime Minister Jair Bolsonaro. He was driven out of power in this last election with Lula taking power. Democratically, he was voted in. It's not a coup or anything like that. But yeah, last November, just hours before a social gathering for Haitian immigrants in the town of Itajal in the southern Brazilian state of Santa Catarina, event organizer Andrea Moller received a chilling message. Cancel the Haiti exhibition or we will commit a massacre, read the subject line of the email seen by Reuters. Santa Catarina is a land of white people for white people, the anonymous sender wrote, signing off with the Nazi salute Sieg Heil. Sieg Heil, I guess, would be more proper. Ultimately, the event went ahead without any problems and with police present. Yet the email, which police in Santa Catarina are still investigating, is indicative of a small but rising number of cases of neo-Nazism in Brazil that have increased as far-right politics flourished during former President Jair Bolsonaro's 2019 to 2023 term. So yeah, There is a growth of neo-Nazism in Brazil. This is from The Guardian. About 100 wedding guests feared dead as boat capsizes in northern Nigeria. Victims, including women and children, were reportedly returning from the ceremony. A boat carrying residents returning from a wedding capsized in northern Nigeria, killing about 100 people, police and local residents have said, as a search for survivors intensified. The boat capsized on Monday on the Niger River in the state of Kwara, close to the neighboring Niger state. A police spokesman, Okasanmi Ajayi, said, "What we gathered was there was a boat that capsized and about 100 people died." So yeah, it's an unfortunate loss of life that should never have happened. So, this is from The Lever. Oil lobby pushed pollution loophole for wildfire smoke. Climate change is intensifying toxic wildfires, but big oil push to exempt the resulting pollution from the federal air quality standards. Like I keep saying, we're in a second Gilded Age. Money is power now. Once again. And it should be stripped from the rich and the corporations. But this is what I was talking about. It made those wildfires in Canada made New York look like something from a sci-fi horror movie. Look at that sky, that orange. Look. Yeah. One World Trade Center in New York. That was July the 7th. Or June 7th, sorry. Let's see, another story from The Lever. You love to see it. SCOTUS sides with democracy. Also, the EPA tackles toxic plastic. New York City medical residents strike for fair pay. Dollar General addresses terrible working conditions. And Southern courts take small steps on trans rights and more. Good things are happening. The Supreme Court upheld a crucial section of the Voting Rights Act. The EPA is reversing its own bad policies from the Trump era, and New York City doctors staged their first strike in 30 years. Plus, Southern judges deliver rare rulings in favor of trans rights and more. The Supreme Court ruled 5-4 on Thursday to protect the rights of black voters in Alabama, protecting the last remaining voting rights safeguards, and everyone is shocked. Yeah, it's a unanimous right-wing court. Well, not unanimous, but the court has more right-wing members than left-wing members. Or you should probably say centrist members. There's not really left-wing members in this country. There is no real effective left in the U.S. But in Alabama, racist gerrymandering has ensured that only 1 out of 7 congressional districts holds a large enough black population to elect a black candidate. Last year, a three-judge court ruled that the map likely violated the Voting Rights Act, but Supreme Court put the ruling on hold long enough to let Alabama Republicans win six congressional seats. Now they've changed their tune. And this week's ruling upholds Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act, calling for a new representative map, including a second majority black district. Oh, goodness. But yeah, we talked about this with the first story we was looking at. I think it was the first story. Yeah, voting maps throughout the Deep South may be redrawn. Yeah. Another story. Forever Chemicals makers hid dangers for decades. And we're talking, when we talk about Forever Chemicals, we're talking about those that take a immense period of time to break down. New study finds that PFA's manufacturers took a page from Big Tobacco to suppress research and delay regulation. The manufacturers of Forever Chemicals used in products like non-stick pans and waterproof clothing knew about the dangers of their materials posed more than 40 years before the general public, according to previously secret industry documents. By following the same playbook, Big Tobacco, including suppression of their own research, the company successfully stymied regulation for decades, while the cancer-causing chemicals became ubiquitous in the water, air, and soil. Yeah, just classic greed. Honestly, sometimes I feel like we've screwed ourselves so bad that we deserve our fate. But that isn't the right way to think. And this from ProPublica, trapped under trucks. For decades, federal safety regulators ignored credible scientific research and failed to take simple steps to stop gruesome roadway crashes involving heavy trucks. Meanwhile, the bodies piled up. Yeah. Again, just greed. And, the Ohio train derailment. Again, another case of greed. They knew they needed to make changes to fix things. Nah, that cost money. Anyway, we're going to finish off here with two very interesting picks. This is from the Space Reddit. Jovian close encounter coming close to the surface of Jupiter. Yeah. You could see how many of the clouds have formed these huge storms. I mean, look at that one. That's got to be miles and miles in size. Even that one's a huge storm. And this one also from the Space Reddit. The once-in-a-century transit of Venus across the sun captured from the International Space Station. So yeah, you can see how tiny Venus is in comparison to the sun. People forget the sun is immense to anything else in our galaxy. Sorry, solar system, not galaxy. Galaxy would be the whole of the Milky Way, including several star systems. But yeah, bigger than the asteroid belts, any of our planets, it would devour. Even Jupiter, as being the biggest planet in our solar system, would still be just devoured by the sun. But that will be the end of the episode. As always, educate thyself. Think, read, study, learn. Someone tries to tell you something you have trouble believing, ask them to cite their sources, and I will be putting the sources to these stories in the description box below the video. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you all in the next one. Until then, later.